The grand hall of the Galactic Council was never quiet, but today it was silent. Leaders from over 50 alien species sat at the long crystal table. Some had scales, others had feathers or metal limbs. A few floated. All of them stared at the large entrance gate. "He's coming," whispered High Chancellor Vok. Everyone had heard stories. Humanity had finally been invited into the Galactic Council. After years of watching from afar, they had won too many wars, survived too many impossible odds. The Council hoped the humans would join peacefully, but no one expected the ambassador to be this strange. The giant metal doors opened with a slow hum. A single human walked in. He wore a dark blue suit. His shoes shined. His hair was neat. His face was calm. He walked slowly, hands behind his back, and stopped in front of the table. Then, he smiled. "Good morning, honored members of the Council," he said with a gentle bow. "I'm deeply thankful for this opportunity." No one spoke. Some narrowed their eyes. Others shifted in their seats. The human's voice was warm. Too warm. His smile. Too perfect. "I am Ambassador Elias Vale," the human said. "And on behalf of Earth and all her people, I bring peace, respect, and deep admiration." He placed a small silver box on the table. "This," he said, "is a gift from Earth, a simple symbol of our goodwill." The box opened. Inside was a glowing crystal orb about the size of an egg. It pulsed gently, changing color, blue to green to soft white. Suddenly, the lights in the hall flickered. A few alien leaders stood up tense. Ambassador Vale simply placed one hand over his heart and said, "I apologize. Our gift sometimes reacts to emotional energy. Perhaps we're all feeling something strong right now?" The room stayed quiet. The Zarkonian general, tall and armored in black plates, leaned toward the insectoid diplomat beside him and whispered, "Why is he smiling? What does he know that we don't?" The ambassador turned his head, still smiling. "Curious question, General. I believe I heard that." The room froze. "How?" the general began. "I have very good ears," Vale said kindly. "We humans train in many things. Listening is one of them." He returned to his center position, still calm, still polite. "I understand," he continued, "that many of you may feel unsure. Humanity has a complicated history. Wars, mistakes, passion." He looked around, making soft eye contact with each species. "But that past made us who we are, and who we are now are people who want peace." Still, no one moved. The silence grew heavier. Vale kept speaking, never raising his voice. "We studied all of your cultures before coming here, learned your languages, your customs. I know that in Krell tradition, I must nod 4 times, like this." He nodded politely, exactly 4 times. "And for the Suthari," he continued, turning to a tall green being, "I must touch the ground with my right hand before speaking to you. Like this." He bent down and touched the smooth floor. He did this for every species, every rule, every custom, every bow, every word. And still, he smiled. It wasn't fake. That made it worse. Chancellor Vok finally spoke. His voice was rough. "Ambassador Vale, may I ask a question?" "Of course, Chancellor," Vale said with a pleasant tone. "Why are you so polite?" Some heads nodded. Others leaned forward. It was the question all of them had been thinking. Vale tilted his head slightly like he was surprised. "Because it's the right thing to do," he answered. "And because kindness is powerful." He paused. "Especially when you know what real violence looks like." The temperature in the room dropped slightly. Or maybe it just felt that way. Vok narrowed his eyes. "And what does that mean?" Vale looked thoughtful. "It means we have known war, true war. We do not enjoy it, but we are very, very good at it. So now we try something else. We try peace." He placed his hands together and bowed again. Assure you we come only in goodwill. But I understand your fear. It is normal. You are right to be careful. He looked up. Because kindness, real kindness, is rare, and sometimes it hides something sharp. The crystal orb on the table pulsed again. Harder. Brighter. The lights flickered once more, this time longer. A soft hum echoed in the hall, then it stopped. Dead silence. Then the ambassador smiled once again. "Forgive me," he said gently. "I should have mentioned. The orb also reacts to tension." He picked it up and placed it back in the silver box. "I'll hold on to it, for now." As he turned and calmly walked to his seat, no one noticed they were holding their breath. The council had invited a human, but they didn't expect this. So polite. Ambassador Elias Vale did not raise his voice. He never interrupted, never frowned. He smiled every time someone spoke to him, even when they insulted Earth, and that made the Galactic Council deeply uncomfortable. In the days after his arrival, the ambassador visited every chamber, every leader, every species. He brought small, thoughtful gifts: a handwritten poem for the Suthari, a rare spice for the Zarkonian generals, a memory crystal filled with Earth music for the Varn Empire. He never made demands. He only made polite suggestions. He remembered everyone's name, everyone's title, even the exact way to bow, salute, or click his fingers based on each species' traditions. "Ambassador Vale," said a yellow-scaled diplomat one morning, "you don't act like any human I've ever met." Vale smiled. "Oh? How many humans have you met, counselor?" The diplomat blinked. "Just you." Vale nodded, still smiling. "Then perhaps it is time to update your opinion." Whispers followed him everywhere. The Varn Empress, ruler of a deadly and proud empire, sent a private message to her inner circle. "This human is dangerous. Too perfect. A mind like a knife wrapped in silk." Even the Suthari, known for their calm and wisdom, seemed disturbed. "He never sweats," one Suthari elder whispered. "Never breathes heavily. Doesn't even blink too much. That's not normal." But the ambassador was always kind. He laughed at jokes, complimented everyone, listened closely to every boring speech. And then came the breakfast incident. On the fourth day, the council hosted a formal breakfast. It was meant to be casual. No speeches, no talks, just food and soft conversation. Vale arrived early. He waited, by the table. When the others arrived, he stood, bowed, and pulled out a chair for the nearest alien, even though the species had no legs. Still, he smiled. "Old habits," he said kindly. He took a small plate. Only fruit. He cut it slowly, quietly. The Krell general, a four-eyed warrior species, slammed his metal fist on the table. "You insult us." Vale paused. "I'm sorry, General." "How?" "You eat like we are prey." The Krell growled. Carefully, watching, planning. A few others looked up. Vale gently placed his fork down and looked at the general with soft eyes. "I eat carefully because my mother taught me manners. I watch because I'm learning. And I plan because Earth has learned what happens when we don't." He smiled again. "But I can assure you, General, I do not see anyone here as prey, unless someone here sees me that way." The room grew quiet. The Krell didn't answer. Later that day, in a private chamber, the Zarkonian general whispered to a small AI drone, "Spy on him. Record everything. I don't trust that smile." The drone followed Vale across the station. It recorded his meetings, his walks, even when he stared out the viewing glass toward the stars. But something strange happened. The drone began to send back static. Only one clear word came through the noise: "Execute." The general played the message again and again. Same result. He checked the drone. It was fried from the inside, melted. But no signs of attack. Just one word: execute. Was it a command, a warning, or a memory? Meanwhile, Vale continued spreading goodwill. He organized a poetry reading. He invited children from other species to hear Earth tales. He even served tea, Earth tea, to several council members. "It has a calming effect," he explained softly. "But don't drink too much. It might make your thoughts louder." After the tea, one council member said he heard voices. Another said he remembered things he had never lived. The Suthari elder meditated for 3 hours, then said only one sentence: "The human is not what he seems." And yet, Vale always smiled. He always thanked everyone, even when the council secretly discussed removing him. That night, 5 alien leaders had the same dream. A dark sky, Earth below them, on fire, billions screaming, and in the middle of the flames, Ambassador Elias Vale. Smiling, he said only one thing in the dream: "Kindness is the final warning." The leaders woke up sweating, hearts racing. "How could we have the same dream?" one demanded. "No way to know," said another. "But we can't ignore it." They voted. A motion to restrict human access to council data. Vale did not fight. He just bowed and said, "Of course, we respect your caution." But as he left the room, his smile stayed only now. It reached his eyes. So calm. So dangerous. 2 days after the council's vote to limit human access, Ambassador Elias Vale made a new move. He didn't argue. He didn't protest. He simply requested permission to host a peace gathering. "It will be small," he said with his usual calm voice. "Just an offering of culture, art, and friendship." The council hesitated, then agreed. They thought it was harmless, but once again they were wrong. The peace gathering was held in a dome-shaped garden chamber floating above the station. The room was full of colors, flowers from Earth, light music in the background, and sweet warm scents that no one could quite explain. Vale stood in the center, surrounded by a display of gifts. A basket of earth fruits, glowing softly under the lights. Thin, leather-bound books filled with ancient human poetry. Glass containers with what looked like air inside, but had a strange, humming energy. A soft, haunting tune played from a hidden speaker, repeating a melody every species found oddly familiar. "Please," Vale said, waving gently. "Take anything you like. These are for you." Some leaders looked suspicious, others curious. A few approached and picked something small. Councillor Threx of the Krell picked a strange red fruit. He sniffed it, then took a bite. His 4 eyes widened. "I see stars," he whispered. "What kind of stars?" asked his aide. "From childhood, from memory. But I never saw them before." He fell to his knees, overwhelmed. Another delegate opened a poetry book. As they read, their voice became shaky. "These are human words," she said, "but I feel like they were written about my people, about our loss." Then a third, a Varn officer, inhaled the air from one of the glass jars. He started crying. "Don't cry," he said. "We don't even have tear ducts." He cried anyway. Council security soon stepped in. They warned the others to stop touching the gifts. The head of station protection spoke to Vale directly. "These objects are not normal," she said. "They're triggering emotions, memories, visions." "What are they?" Vale folded his hands. "Artifacts of human history," he said softly. "Nothing more. Perhaps your minds are simply sensitive." She didn't believe him. Neither did the council. Within the hour, all human gifts were banned from council buildings. The peace gathering was shut down. Still, some who had touched the items refused to give them up. One counselor locked herself in her chamber, holding a single poem to her chest. Another stopped speaking completely. He only listened to the melody Vale had played, over and over, like it was whispering secrets to him. But things grew stranger that night. 5 council members reported a shared dream. Again, this time, they saw Earth as it is now. A blue world, quiet and beautiful, and yet something waited under the oceans. Something massive, sleeping. And in the clouds, A soft voice sang the same melody from the peace gathering, a song of peace. But it felt like a warning. The Varn delegate woke up screaming. His skin had changed color, a rare stress reaction. He said one thing before collapsing. Earth remembers us. The council demanded an explanation. Vale came willingly. He entered the chamber with a light smile, hands behind his back. Did you plan this? Demanded Chancellor Vok. These visions, these dreams, what are you doing? Vale seemed surprised. I offered gifts, kindness. If your minds reacted in unusual ways, perhaps it says more about you than us. This is manipulation, growled the Zarkonian general. No, Vale said gently. This is history. Earth has known deep emotions. Sorrow, beauty, rage. When you touch our stories, you feel what we carry. He stepped forward slowly. You asked why we are polite, why we smile. His voice lowered. It's because we know the weight of our past. We don't want to show you the other side. A long silence followed. Then Counselor Threx stood. He looked at Vale carefully. I bit your fruit. I saw things. Do you regret it? Vale asked. Threx didn't answer, but he didn't sit down either. The council voted again. All Earth materials were to be removed from council space immediately. The ambassador nodded politely. I understand, he said. Thank you for your time. He walked out without complaint. But once the chamber emptied, Chancellor Vok stayed behind and turned to the security head. Next time, he said quietly, don't invite kindness to the battlefield. That night, something terrifying happened. All across the station, lights flickered. Security systems crashed for 10 seconds. In those 10 seconds, every screen showed one image, a black sky, a human eye, and a soft phrase written below it. We are still being polite. The council was no longer calm. The words, we are still being polite, had appeared on every screen in the station, for 10 seconds only. But it was enough. No. One admitted it out loud, but every delegate felt the same cold truth in their bones. That wasn't a message. That was a warning. Security teams ran full checks. Nothing was found. No hacking tools. No signals from Earth. No devices from the ambassadors' rooms. Nothing. The systems were clean. That made it worse. Ambassador Elias Vale did not hide. The next morning, he appeared as usual. Early, smiling, well-dressed, he entered the council hall like nothing had happened. Good morning, friends, he said cheerfully. No one answered. He sat at his seat quietly, waiting for the meeting to begin. But something had changed. The fear in the room wasn't hidden anymore. It was thick in the air. The silence felt sharp. Finally, Chancellor Vok broke it. You sent that message. Vale looked surprised. What message, Chancellor? Vok stood up slowly. You know what I mean. Don't play games. I never play games, Vale said gently. Humans are honest, especially when we smile. That smile again. Soft, warm, terrifying. The Zarkonian general slammed his hand on the table. No more tricks, no more smiles. We want to know what's behind that face. Who are you really, Ambassador? Vale tilted his head slightly. Ah, he said. You want to know what's behind the smile? He stood slowly and stepped forward into the center of the hall. Let me tell you a story. The room stayed quiet. Vale's voice was calm, like he was reading a bedtime story. There was once a species that faced extinction. Their skies burned. Their cities fell. They were forgotten by the stars. No one came to help them. He looked around the chamber. Do you know what they did? He raised one hand. They rebuilt. Another hand. They studied every pain, every loss, every betrayal. He lowered both hands. And then they made a decision. Never again. If the galaxy would not protect them, they would protect themselves. He smiled again, but this time it was different. It wasn't warm. It was honest. You think we are soft, Vale said. Because we are kind, because we bow, because we bring gifts. He took one step forward. But kindness is not weakness. Another step. Smiling doesn't mean surrender. Now he stood in the center of the council, surrounded by silent leaders. We smile because we know what happens when we stop. The room felt colder now. No one moved. Earth remembers, he said softly. Every war, every silence, every species that turned their back while we bled. He looked straight at Chancellor Vok. We don't seek revenge, but we never forget. The Suthari elder slowly stood. What do you want, Ambassador Vale? Vale turned to him. We want peace. Then, why are we afraid? The elder asked. Because you see what's possible, Vale answered. You see a polite man standing here, and you wonder what it would take to break that smile. He leaned slightly forward, still smiling. You should be wondering what happens after it breaks. Security guards had been watching from hidden doors. Now they moved forward. Quietly. Carefully. Vale didn't stop them. One of the guards whispered to the head commander. Do we detain him? The commander shook his head. We don't know what that might trigger. That evening, back in his private quarters, Vale sat by the window sipping tea. He stared at the stars. Calm. Still smiling. There was a soft beep. A message from Earth. Status. Observation continues. Diplomatic response level. 2 military readiness. Green command to ambassador. Remain polite. For now. Vale sipped his tea and whispered, as you wish. Meanwhile, the council met in secret chambers. Their voices were hushed. Eyes nervous. He's a diplomat, one said. But he acts like a soldier. He's both, another answered. And I don't think he's alone. What if Earth has more like him? A third asked. No one answered. Because they all believed the same thing. Earth wasn't sending one ambassador. They were sending a message. The Varn Empress, one of the most powerful leaders in the galaxy, spoke last. We've made a mistake, she said. Letting humans in? Someone asked. No, she replied, assuming they were asking. Ambassador Elias Vale stood in the garden dome again. Alone. The flowers were gone. The music silenced. Only soft white lights glowed above his head. His hands were behind his back, his face calm. He still wore the same polite smile, but this time, it felt heavier, because something had changed. Across the station, council members argued behind closed doors. What do we do about the human? Chancellor Vok asked. Remove him. The Zarkonian general growled. Now. Too dangerous, said the Suthari elder. We don't understand what Earth might do in return. They sent him alone, said the Varn Empress, but somehow we feel surrounded. That sentence stayed in the air, because it was true. Since Elias Vale arrived, the galaxy had felt smaller, like invisible eyes were watching. In a quiet data room deep within the station, an intelligence officer ran a hidden trace. They had been monitoring the ambassador's quarters for days, watching, listening, studying. He played the last audio clip again. It was quiet, just a whisper from Vale as he sipped tea. As you wish. The officer paused. Rewound. Played it again. As you wish. The strange thing wasn't what he said, it was how he said it. It wasn't a message for the council. It was a response. To someone, or something. Who was he talking to? The officer asked aloud. He ran a long-range scan. He expected silence. Instead, he got something else. A signal, not from the station, from Earth. Back in his quarters, Elias Vale watched the stars. The message had already reached Earth. His smile had done its job. Now the world was watching back. In orbit above Earth, deep beneath the clouds, hidden from every known scanner, sat a massive black structure. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a base. It was something older, something silent, something sleeping. Until now. The signal from the ambassador reached it. The structure responded, not with noise, but with light. Hundreds of blinking points activated like eyes opening after a long nap. Then came one word, sent only to Earth's highest command centers. Politeness achieved. Awaiting next trigger. Back on the council station, the Suthari elder did something unexpected. He asked for a private meeting with Vale. They met in a quiet chamber. The elder sat calmly. Vale offered him tea. The elder didn't drink it. Ambassador Vale, he said, I do not believe you are lying, but I do believe you are hiding something. Vale nodded once. That is correct. The elder raised an eyebrow. You admit it? Yes, Vale said, still smiling, because you asked with respect. The elder leaned forward. So tell me, Elias Vale, what is it we are truly dealing with? The ambassador's smile did not fade, but something behind his eyes darkened. You're dealing with the result of a long silence, he said. He looked down at his tea. You turned away from Earth when we cried. Now we've learned to speak without asking. He looked back up gently. And sometimes, speaking softly is louder than shouting. Later that night, the Varn Empress called an emergency session. She showed a recording. The moment all screens had displayed the phrase, "We are still being polite." She zoomed in on the final frame. Hidden in the corner, barely visible, was a human symbol. One word, in Earth's oldest language, Latin, ultima ratio. The final argument. The room fell silent. The Empress stood tall. If this is them being polite, what do you think the final argument looks like? In a hidden chamber far below Earth's surface, an old man in a dark suit stared at a blinking red screen. Next to him, a young officer asked, Sir, what if the galaxy pushes harder? The man simply replied, Then they will see why we smile. Before we act, Ambassador Vale sent one final request to the council. A dinner, one last gathering, one last chance to speak. The council didn't want to attend, but they all said yes, not out of respect, out of fear. The council did not trust Elias Vale. They feared him, yet every single delegate accepted his dinner invitation. Some came with guards. Others came with scanners hidden in their robes. Many whispered warnings to their aides before stepping into the hall. But they all came, because they had seen what happened when humans smiled. Now they were afraid of what might happen if one ever stopped. The dinner was held in the upper dome, surrounded by glass windows looking out into the stars. A long table stretched across the room. Every seat had a simple card with a name. Elias. Vale stood at the head, hands folded, wearing the same dark suit, the same quiet expression. Thank you, he said gently, for accepting my invitation. No one spoke. Vale clapped once. The room shifted. Panels in the walls opened. From them came soft music, human instruments playing an old melody. Then food arrived. Not alien food, not synthetic blocks, human cuisine. Smells filled the chamber, warm, rich, strange. The delegates glanced at their plates. Some dishes steamed, others sparkled, one even pulsed gently like it was alive. Please, Vale said with a small nod. Enjoy. The Varn general picked up a fork, paused, then slowly tasted the food. He froze. Then quietly, he took another bite. The Suthari elder closed his eyes after sipping a drink and whispered, This is memory. The Zarkonian general growled, I taste something from my own childhood, but how? Vale remained still. Because humans study. We learn, and we remember. Even flavors from your worlds are stored in our libraries now. The table went silent again. Elias Vale raised a glass. To peace. No one drank. After a long pause, Chancellor Vox spoke. Enough games, human. This is your last performance. Tell us now. What is Earth truly planning? Vale looked at him kindly. We plan nothing, he said. Unless we must. He set his glass down. You've seen our smiles, our poems, our dreams. But still, you fear what lies behind it. He leaned slightly forward, so let me be clear. His voice dropped, not loud but heavy. Earth has survived storms you can't imagine, wars that ended continents, nights with no stars. We cried for help. No one came. He stood up now. Calm. Straight. So we built ourselves again. Stronger, quieter, and very, very patient. He walked around the table slowly. You see my politeness and you think it's weakness, but you don't understand. He looked directly at the Zarkonian general. Politeness is the final gift before something far worse. The lights dimmed. Suddenly the stars outside shifted. A large shadow passed near the station. Delegates stood up, alert. Some reached for comms. Others looked to their guards. But no one attacked, because it wasn't a ship. It was something else. A massive structure, floating just out of range. It had no weapons, no engines, just a single glowing word written across, its side visible through the glass. Observe. A voice came from the walls, not veils. A deep, calm voice. We are polite. We are patient. We are prepared. The room shook, slightly like space itself had shifted. The delegates backed away from the windows. Vale continued speaking, never raising his tone. You want to know our strength? You're looking at it, Chancellor Vox shouted. What is that thing? Vale turned to him. A reminder that Earth is no longer alone. In the control rooms across the station, alarms lit up, but no weapon systems could lock on to the object. Sensors failed to read it. It had no heat, no life signs. It simply existed, watching, waiting. Back at the dinner table, the Suthari elder stood. We have made a mistake. Vale turned to him. No, you made a choice. When we asked for friendship, you gave fear. When we offered peace, you chose distance. He folded his hands again. So now, we give you a decision. The music stopped. The lights focused on Vale. Tomorrow, Earth will speak. A full address. Not just from me, but from the human world itself. He looked around. You can accept our hand or turn your back again. His smile returned. But if you choose the second time, we will not ask a third. The delegates left the dinner in silence. Some ran scans of the mysterious object outside. Others sent urgent messages back to their homeworlds. The Suthari elder sat in his ship's temple, praying for the first time in decades. The Zarkonian general wrote a last letter to his children just in case. Chancellor Vox simply stared at the stars, whispering, Why did we wait too long to listen? In his private room, Elias Vale opened a final message from Earth. It contained only 2 words. They're listening. Vale smiled, and this time it was real. The council hall was full. Every seat, every balcony, every screen. Delegates came from every system. Some wore armor, some wore robes, some wore masks to hide their emotions. But one thing was the same for all of them. They were afraid, because today, Earth would speak. Not just one human. Not just Elias Vale, all of Earth. A massive screen lit up at the front of the chamber. No one moved. The station's defenses had been shut down, not by attack, but by request. Let them speak, said the Varn Empress. We owe them that much. Even, she sounded unsure. The screen turned black. Then a voice came through. Deep, clear, calm, not robotic, not threatening, just human. We are the voice of Earth. It wasn't one person. It was many voices speaking as one. Male, female, old, young, all speaking the same words, perfectly in sync. You ignored us when we cried. You turned away when we bled. But we did not break. The screen showed images now, old footage of Earth. Cities, in ruin, floods, smoke, silence. Then came the rebuilding, hands lifting bricks. Children learning. People planting trees in ash-covered soil. We rebuilt not to prove anything to you. We rebuilt because we had no choice. Then the screen went black again. Only the voice remained. And now we offer you one final gift. Peace. With truth. Elias Vale stood silently as the message played. His face was calm, but his eyes watched every delegate. Some leaned forward, others held their breath. Peace with Earth means understanding three truths. Truth 1, we do not want war, but we are no longer afraid of it. The screen showed shadows of ships, huge ships, moving in silence. They did not fire, they did not attack, but their size told a story. Truth 2, we are polite. Because we remember what happens when we are not. Now the screen showed something else. A planet. Burning. Not Earth. Not in the human system. A nameless world once used for secret experiments on captured humans. That world was gone now. Turned to ash. No, ships were seen near it, but the meaning was clear. Earth had done it. Quietly. Perfectly. Without a trace. Truth 3. This is your last chance. Not a threat. A truth. If you walk away again, we will not follow. But we will never forget. The screen faded. The lights returned. Silence. Then, slowly, Ambassador Elias Vale stepped forward. Looked different now, still polite, still calm, but something in his smile had changed. It was no longer hiding anything. It was a warning, wrapped in kindness. He raised his hand, palm open. You have heard our voice. Now we wait. He bowed, deeply, and returned to his seat. The Suthuri elder stood first. He bowed to Vale and said only one word. Respect. Then he walked out. One by one, other delegates followed. Some nodded. Some stayed silent. Some didn't even look at the ambassador as they left. But no one argued. No one laughed. No one doubted anymore. Far above the station, the shadow object still waited. No movement, no sound, just one new message glowing across its surface. Final decision pending. Back on Earth, in a dark room deep under the surface, the Council of Human Leaders watched the last moments of the broadcast. A woman in a black suit turned to her team. Responses? A man answered. 36 systems show signs of fear. 12 want to open peace talks. 3 are evacuating border colonies. Good, the woman said. Keep smiling. Another voice added. And if they refuse? The woman stood. Then we stopped smiling. Elias Vale sat alone in his room now. He poured himself a cup of tea. Steam rose gently. He didn't drink it. He just looked at the stars, waiting, listening, and whispering softly. Politeness has its limits. The galaxy went quiet. After Earth's message, after Elias Vale's final bow, no one knew what to say. No one wanted to make the wrong move. Every empire paused its trade. Every warship stayed in place. Every ruler waited for someone else to speak first. But no one did. For the first time in galactic history, human silence became the loudest sound in the stars. 3 days passed. The shadow outside the council station never moved. It only blinked once every hour, just one single word on its side. Waiting. Inside the station, the council chamber sat empty. Delegates had returned to their worlds. Messages were sent. Votes were taken. Leaders argued behind locked doors, but all of them knew one truth. They couldn't hide anymore. Earth had shown its cards, not by threats, not by force, but by patience, and that terrified them more than any weapon ever could. On the 4th day, a message came through the station's core channel, encrypted, direct, from the Galactic Council's high seat. Ambassador Elias Vale stood alone in the great hall as it played. The voice was familiar, Chancellor Vach. But now it shook with something new, respect. Ambassador Vale, on behalf of the Galactic Council, we accept. Earth is to be given a seat among the high worlds, no longer as a visitor, but as a full equal. The message paused. We do not do this out of fear. We do this because you asked with patience. And we finally listened. Elias Vale closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Then he smiled. Gently, like always. Later that evening, the giant object outside the station vanished. No engines, no light. It was simply gone. Like it was never there. But every delegate who had seen it would remember it forever, and they would remember the message. This is us being polite. A few weeks later, a new meeting began. The chamber was full, again, but this time, Earth's flag stood among the others. Ambassador Vale didn't sit alone now. Beside him were 3 other human envoys, scientists, diplomats, even a historian. They didn't speak loudly. They didn't demand anything. They just listened. And when they spoke, they used simple words, clear words, polite words. But everyone listened, because now the galaxy understood something powerful. Earth had become the quiet voice in the room that carried the greatest weight. Back on Earth, deep in the command center, the woman in black smiled as reports came in. "Status?" she asked. A young officer replied. 12 new treaties signed. Border tensions dropping. Human trade requests being approved. She nodded once. "And our signal?" He checked the screen. Shadow protocol deactivated. Global code word, peace hold. "Good," she said, then paused. "Keep everything ready, just in case they ever forget." Meanwhile, on a distant world that once rejected Earth's help, a monument was being built, not to honor Earth's strength, but to honor its restraint. At the base of the statue were simple words, translated into every known language. We asked for help. They asked us to sit down for tea. We said no. Now we're just glad they're still smiling. Elias Vale stood once more in the garden dome. The flowers had returned. Music played again. Peace felt real. A young alien diplomat approached him shyly. "Ambassador, may I ask you something?" Vale turned kindly. "Of course." The alien hesitated. Why did Earth wait so long before speaking like this? Vale looked out the window for a moment, then he answered, "Because we had to learn patience. Not just for ourselves, but for the galaxy." He sipped his tea. "And because true power doesn't shout." And somewhere, far beyond the stars, deep in the silent dark, something ancient watched quietly, still waiting, still ready, but silent for now.